The morning started like any other at the Galactic Communications Hub on Alpha Centauri. Linda Martinez sat at her control station, monitoring the constant stream of transmissions from Earth. The familiar chatter of news broadcasts, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic communications filled her ears through her neural interface. The massive central display showed Earth's signal strength, always steady, always reliable, as it had been for the past 80 years, since humanity joined the galactic community. Linda sipped her coffee, scrolling through routine reports from the overnight shift. A small alert pinged on her screen. She frowned, tapping it open. A slight fluctuation in Earth's primary communication band. Nothing serious, she thought, probably just some solar interference. She made a note to inform maintenance. Then another alert popped up, and another. Within seconds, her entire dashboard lit up with warning signals. Linda's hands flew across the holographic controls, checking each frequency band. "That's impossible," she whispered, running a diagnostic. The results came back clear. There was nothing wrong with their equipment. The problem was at the source. Earth's signals were dropping, one by one. She pressed her emergency comm button. "Control room, this is Martinez. I'm seeing multiple signal failures from Earth. Can anyone confirm?" Her colleague Peter Wright's voice came through, tense and worried. "Confirmed, Linda. I'm seeing it too. All bands are showing degradation." Linda's heart raced as she watched the signal strength indicators plummet. News feeds cut out first, followed by diplomatic channels. The emergency frequencies still held strong, but they too began to waver. "Get me Admiral Rogers," she ordered, initiating the emergency protocols she had trained for but never expected to use. "And contact the Galactic Council. They need to know about this immediately." The massive screen above them showed Earth's communication sphere shrinking rapidly. Each dot of light representing a transmission channel winked out, one after another, like stars going dark. Admiral Rogers appeared on her screen, his face lined with concern. "Report, Officer Martinez." "Sir, we're losing all contact with Earth. Every frequency, every channel. It's not equipment failure on our end. Something's happening at the source." The Admiral's expression darkened. "How long until total blackout?" Linda checked her readings. "At this rate, maybe 5 minutes." "Sir, this has never happened before. Not in all 80 years of Earth's membership in the galactic community. Any signs of attack? Natural phenomena?" "Nothing, sir. No unusual solar activity. No spatial anomalies. Earth is just going quiet." The emergency frequencies failed next. Linda's hands trembled as she tried desperately to establish any kind of connection. The few remaining channels crackled with static before falling silent. Then, at exactly 9:47 Galactic Standard Time, the last signal from Earth disappeared. The great sphere of light on the main display vanished completely, leaving only darkness where Earth's communications had once shone. The control room fell silent. Linda stared at her screens, hardly daring to breathe. Earth, the chatty newcomer to galactic society, the planet that had transformed interstellar relations with its constant flow of music, art, and ideas, had fallen completely silent. Admiral Rogers' voice broke through the stunned quiet. "Send word to all human colonies. I want every available ship diverted to the Sol system, and get me a direct line to the Galactic Council. They need to know that we have a situation." Linda nodded, her fingers already moving across the controls. As she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Throughout human history, silence had often preceded the most momentous events. Around her, the control room burst into frantic activity. Analysts rushed to their stations, communications officers sent urgent messages across the galaxy, and security personnel began implementing emergency protocols. Earth's silence echoed across the stars, leaving a void in the galactic communications network that had never been there before. And in that void, questions multiplied. What had happened to humanity's homeworld? Why had they gone silent? And most importantly, What would happen next? The day that had started so normally had become one that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations to come. The day Earth fell silent. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from over 200 species gathered for the emergency session. The massive crystalline dome above showed the stars, including the now silent Sol system, appearing unusually dim against the cosmic background. Ambassador George Thompson stood at the podium, his weathered face showing the strain of the past 24 hours. As the senior human representative from the colonies, he faced the daunting task of addressing the Council about Earth's sudden silence. Distinguished members of the Council, he began, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. We stand before you in a time of unprecedented crisis. For the first time in 80 years, we have lost all contact with Earth. We have no explanation for this silence. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Zentarian representative, a tall being with silvery skin, rose to speak. Earth has been crucial to galactic stability since their arrival. Their diplomatic efforts prevented 3 major wars in the past decade alone. This silence threatens everything we've built together. Thompson nodded grimly. We understand the gravity of the situation. The human colonies are mobilizing every available resource. We've already dispatched science vessels to investigate. The Proximan delegate, resembling a graceful insectoid, clicked its mandibles in concern. What of the trade routes? Earth's shipping lanes handle 40% of galactic commerce. The economic impact. We are aware, Thompson interrupted politely. Colonial authorities are already working to redirect vital shipments through alternative routes. But we need help. Earth's silence affects us all. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices as various species offered assistance. The Andromedans pledged their fastest ships, while the Rigelians offered their advanced scanning technology. Even the usually isolated Vega Collective volunteered their expertise in dimensional analysis. As the offers poured in, Amanda Foster, Thompson's deputy, organized the responses into a coherent action plan. Her tablet filled with commitments of ships, personnel, and resources from across the galaxy. We propose a joint task force, Thompson announced, seizing the moment of unity. Our combined technologies and knowledge give us the best chance of discovering what happened to Earth. The Council's High Minister, an ancient being from the species that had first welcomed humanity to the stars, raised their crystalline appendages for silence. This chamber has witnessed many crises, but none quite like this. Earth's influence on our civilization cannot be overstated. Their art, their music, their unique way of seeing the universe, we cannot allow this silence to become permanent. In the observation gallery, Dr. Paul Harris, Earth's leading xenorchaeologist, watched the proceedings with growing concern. He had been studying patterns in ancient ruins across the galaxy when the silence began. Something about this situation tickled at his memory, but he couldn't quite place it. The Council voted unanimously to form the task force. Ships from 17 different species would converge on the Sol system within the next 48 hours. Thompson felt a surge of gratitude for the galaxy's swift response. As the session concluded, Amanda approached Thompson with urgent news. Sir, we're getting reports from the outer colonies. The ancient artifacts they've been studying. They're showing signs of activity. All of them, simultaneously. Thompson's eyes widened. In 80 years of space exploration, humanity had encountered hundreds of mysterious alien artifacts, remnants of civilizations long vanished. Never had they all activated at once. Add it to the briefing for the task force, he ordered, and get me Dr. Harris. If there's a connection between these artifacts and Earth's silence, we need to find it. As the council chamber emptied, Thompson stood at the vast window, staring in the direction of Earth. In less than a day, humanity's homeworld had transformed from the beating heart of galactic civilization into its greatest mystery. The next few hours would be crucial. Ships were moving, scientists were mobilizing, and the greatest minds of 100 worlds were turning their attention to a single question. What had happened to Earth? All Thompson knew for certain was that nothing in the galaxy would be the same until they had an answer. Captain Mary Baker stood on the bridge of the Starweaver, watching as her crew worked with their alien counterparts. The Joint Task Force had assembled faster than anyone thought possible, with ships from 17 different species now approaching the Sol system in tight formation. The Starweaver led the fleet, chosen for its advanced sensors and hybrid human-alien technology. Mary felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders as they drew closer to their target. Earth lay ahead, hidden somewhere behind the strange readings that filled their screens. "Captain, we're picking up something unusual," said Lieutenant Steve Carter, his fingers dancing across the sensor controls. "There's some kind of energy field surrounding Earth's orbit, nothing like we've ever seen before." The main view screen showed a shimmer in space, barely visible to the naked eye, but lighting up their instruments like a stellar flare. The field encompassed the entire orbital path of Earth, a perfect sphere of unknown energy. "Send the data to our Zentarian colleagues," Mary ordered. "Their quantum analyzers might make sense of this." The alien ships in their fleet moved into a scanning formation, their more advanced sensors probing the mysterious barrier. Mary watched as streams of data flowed between the ships, each species adding their unique perspective to the puzzle. "Captain," called out Officer Lisa Green from Communications. "The Andromedans are reporting similar energy signatures from their archaeological sites. Whatever this is, it's connected to the ancient artifacts that activated when Earth went silent." Mary frowned, studying the readings. They had tried every known form of communication: radio waves, quantum signals, even the old-fashioned light patterns. Nothing penetrated the barrier. The ship's science officer, an elegant Proximan named Zix, approached her station. "Captain, we're detecting temporal anomalies within the field. Time itself appears to be different inside the barrier." "Different how?" Mary asked, leaning forward. "Accelerated," Zix clicked. "If our readings are correct, time is moving faster within the field than outside it. Much faster." A sudden alert blared through the bridge. One of the Rigelian ships had moved too close to the barrier. Mary watched in horror as the energy field pulsed, sending out a wave that knocked the ship backward. "All ships, maintain safe distance," she broadcast to the fleet. "Whatever this field is, it's actively defending itself." The crew worked tirelessly, running every scan and test they could think of. Hours passed as they circled the barrier, probing for weaknesses or patterns. The Vega Collective's dimensional sensors revealed layers within the field, like an onion made of pure energy. "Captain," Steve called out suddenly, "we're picking up something from inside the barrier. It's faint, but it's there." Mary rushed to his station. "What is it?" "A pattern in the energy fluctuations. It's not random. This field wasn't created by any natural phenomenon. Someone made this." The implications hit Mary like a physical force. "Are you saying Earth did this to themselves? Voluntarily?" Before anyone could respond, the barrier rippled. For a brief moment, less than a second, it became transparent. The bridge crew gasped as they caught a glimpse of Earth through the gap. But it wasn't the Earth they remembered. The planet glowed with new configurations of lights, showing signs of construction on a massive scale. Then the barrier solidified again, leaving them with more questions than answers. "Send everything we've seen to the Galactic Council," Mary ordered. "And get me a channel to Ambassador Thompson. He needs to know. Earth hasn't been attacked or destroyed. They've done something else entirely. Something beyond our current understanding." As the messages went out, Mary stood at her viewport, staring at the shimmering barrier that hid humanity's homeworld. In all her years of space exploration, she had never encountered anything like this. Earth hadn't fallen silent. It had evolved, transformed itself into something new. The question now was why. What could have driven Earth to take such a dramatic step? And what did it mean for the rest of the galaxy? The Starweaver maintained its position, its crew watching and waiting, as the mystery of Earth's silence deepened into something far more profound than anyone had imagined. Colony Governor John Phillips stared out his office window at the bustling streets of New Eden, the capital city of Proxima Beta. The colony world had changed dramatically in the 3 days since Earth went silent. Fear and uncertainty hung in the air like a heavy fog. Trade ships from various alien species crowded the spaceports, their crews demanding answers about disrupted shipping routes. Earth had been the hub of galactic commerce for decades, and its sudden isolation left countless supply chains in chaos. "Sir," his assistant Daniel White entered the office, "the Mercantile Guild is requesting another emergency meeting, and we've got reports of panic buying in the eastern districts." John rubbed his temples. "Schedule the meeting for tomorrow morning, and double the security patrols in the market sectors. We can't let this situation spiral into chaos." A holographic notification appeared on his desk. Another message from the Zentarian trade delegation. They were threatening to withdraw their investments in human colonial projects. Without Earth's backing, confidence in human reliability was plummeting. The colony's central plaza filled with people gathering around the public news screens. Reports from the task force investigating Earth played on repeat, showing the mysterious barrier that now surrounded humanity's homeworld. "Governor," Daniel returned, looking worried, "we're getting strange readings from the artifact chamber. The ancient structures are becoming more active." John grabbed his coat. The artifacts were too important to ignore. These remnants of long-dead civilizations had been discovered on nearly every habitable world, including Proxima Beta. Until now, they had been dormant, resistant to all attempts at activation. In the underground facility, scientists huddled around monitoring equipment. The artifacts, crystalline structures that seemed to defy physics, pulsed with an inner light that matched the rhythm of Earth's barrier. "What do you make of it?" John asked Dr. Karen Miller, the lead researcher. She shook her head, eyes fixed on her readings. "They're resonating with something. The energy signature matches what the task force found around Earth. These artifacts, they're all connected somehow." A commotion from the street level drew their attention. John rushed back to his office, where the news screen showed fresh footage from the task force. For a brief moment, they had seen through the barrier, glimpses of an Earth transformed. His secure communication channel lit up with a priority message from Ambassador Thompson. The Galactic Council was calling for an emergency session. Some alien factions were beginning to question whether humanity had been planning this all along. "Sir," Daniel appeared again. "The Colonial Defense Fleet is reporting unusual activity in the outer system. Several unregistered ships have appeared near the mining outposts." "Pirates," John growled. With Earth's protection temporarily gone, opportunists were already testing the colony's defenses. "Alert the fleet. We can't show any weakness now." He drafted messages to the other colonial governors, coordinating their responses to the crisis. Unity among the human colonies had never been more crucial. The day wore on, bringing more challenges with each passing hour. Trade disputes, security concerns, diplomatic tensions, all needed his immediate attention. Yet John couldn't shake the feeling that they were all missing something important. In the artifact chamber below, the ancient crystals continued their mysterious pulsing. Each beat seemed to whisper of secrets long forgotten, of civilizations that had faced similar moments of transformation. As night fell on New Eden, John stood at his window again. The city lights below reminded him of Earth's cities, now hidden behind an impenetrable barrier of energy. Whatever was happening to their homeworld, the colonies had to stay strong. "Daniel," he called to his assistant, "set up a direct channel to the task force. If Earth's trying to tell us something through these artifacts, we need to figure out what it is. And fast." The colony world spun beneath an alien sky, its human inhabitants holding their breath, waiting to learn what had become of the world that had given them birth. In the darkness between the stars, ancient machines stirred to life, counting down to something that only Earth seemed to understand. Dr. Kevin Walsh hadn't slept in 3 days. His lab aboard the Starweaver was covered in holographic displays showing data from Earth's barrier, ancient myths, and archaeological records. Something about the energy field's pattern had been nagging at his mind since they first detected it. Computer, overlay the barrier's energy signature with the patterns from the Hindu texts about dimensional transcendence, he muttered, sipping his cold coffee. The holographic displays shifted, and Kevin nearly dropped his cup. "That's impossible," he whispered. The patterns matched perfectly. Ancient human stories about gods and higher planes of existence showed the exact same energy configurations they were now seeing around Earth. He pressed his comm button. "Captain Baker, you need to see this immediately." Mary arrived minutes later, followed by Zix, the Proximan science officer. Kevin pointed to his displays, hands shaking with excitement and exhaustion. "Look at these patterns. They're not just similar, they're identical. Every human culture had myths about beings who achieved higher states of existence. We always thought they were just stories, but look at the barrier around Earth." Mary studied the displays, her eyes widening. "Are you saying Earth has ascended?" "Not exactly," Kevin replied. "They shifted themselves, deliberately. The barrier isn't keeping us out. It's holding something in, or protecting us from something." New data streamed in from the Colonial artifacts. Their pulsing had grown stronger, forming a complex network of energy that spanned the galaxy. Each beat matched the rhythm of Earth's barrier perfectly. "These artifacts," Zix clicked thoughtfully, "they're not just ancient technology. They're warning systems, and they're all activating now." Kevin pulled up more data. Earth must have discovered what they were warning about. Instead of running or hiding, they did this. They're transforming themselves, evolving at an accelerated rate inside that barrier. The ship's sensors suddenly registered a spike in the barrier's energy. The protective field flickered, becoming partially transparent for several seconds. Through the gaps, they saw massive structures orbiting Earth, constructions that defied conventional physics. "Those aren't normal space stations," Mary breathed. What are they?" "Dimensional anchors," Kevin said with growing certainty. "Earth isn't just hiding. They're preparing." The myths all talked about higher dimensions where greater powers existed. Earth found proof those dimensions were real. Zix's sensor tendrils quivered, and something from those dimensions is coming. Something that made Earth take such drastic action. The artifacts across the galaxy pulsed stronger, their warning becoming more urgent. Kevin's computers churned through calculations, correlating ancient data with current readings. "Captain," he said, his voice tense, "we need to get this information to the Galactic Council immediately. Earth didn't abandon us. They're trying to protect us. They're rushing to evolve into something capable of facing whatever's coming." Mary nodded grimly. "Send everything we have. And get me Ambassador Thompson. He needs to know that Earth's silence wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something much bigger." As the data transmitted across the galaxy, Kevin stared at the barrier surrounding his homeworld. Inside that field, humanity was changing, becoming something new, something that could stand against threats from beyond normal space. The ancient artifacts continued their warning pulse, counting down to an encounter humanity had spent millennia unconsciously preparing for. In myths and legends, in stories of transcendence and transformation, the truth had been hidden all along. Earth hadn't fallen silent. It was preparing to speak in a new voice, one that could be heard across dimensions. The question was whether they would complete their transformation in time to face whatever was coming from the spaces between spaces. Kevin turned back to his data, determined to understand more. The fate of the galaxy might depend on decoding these ancient warnings before it was too late. Susan Cooper stood before the assembled fleet commanders, her quantum mechanics research displayed on the massive screen behind her. After weeks of studying Earth's barrier, she had finally found a way through. "The barrier operates on 11 dimensions," she explained, pointing to her calculations. "But it has a pattern, a rhythm we can match. If we tune our shift shields to resonate with this frequency, we might create a temporary opening. The alien commanders murmured among themselves. This was the first real hope that had since Earth vanished behind its mysterious shield. The Starweaver's bridge was crowded with representatives from every species in the task force. "The risk is significant," Susan continued. "We'll have to push our engines beyond their normal limits, and we don't know what we'll find on the other side." Captain Baker stepped forward. "How many ships do you need?" "3. 1 to generate the resonance field, 2 to maintain stability. The Starweaver can lead. Our hybrid systems are best suited for this." The Zentarian commander raised a crystalline appendage. "The Lightweaver will support. Our quantum cores can handle the strain." "As will the Vega Seeker," added the vegan representative, their holographic form shimming. "Our dimensional drives are designed for such stress." The plan came together quickly. Engineers from multiple species worked to modify the 3 ships, installing new equipment and reinforcing their shields. The rest of the fleet would stand ready to assist if something went wrong. In her lab, Susan ran final simulations. The ancient artifacts across the galaxy had grown more intense in their warnings. Whatever was coming from the higher dimensions, it was getting closer. "All modifications complete," reported Chief Engineer Alan Reed. "The resonance generators are online. We've never pushed systems like this before. We'll get one shot at this." The 3 ships moved into position, forming a triangle around a section of the barrier. Susan watched her instruments carefully, monitoring the energy levels as they built up power. "Initiating resonance field," she announced, starting at 10% capacity. The space between the ships began to shimmer as their combined energy output matched the barrier's frequency. Susan increased power gradually, watching for any sign of instability. 30%, 50%, 70. Warning alarms blared as the ship's systems strained against the enormous energy requirements. The barrier in front of them began to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. 85%. Susan called out over the noise of protesting engines. "The barrier's frequency is changing. It's adapting." "Push through," Captain Baker ordered. "Take us to maximum power." The 3 ships poured everything they had into the resonance field. Space itself seemed to bend between them as they matched and exceeded the barrier's energy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a flash that temporarily blinded their sensors, a hole opened in the barrier. "We've got a breach," Susan shouted, 15 seconds before the barrier adapts. Through the opening, they caught their first clear view of Earth since its transformation. The planet was surrounded by massive structures that defied normal geometry, technologies that operated on principles no one in the fleet had seen before. And there, finally, was a signal. A transmission squeezed through the gap just before it closed, carrying a message from the transformed Earth to the waiting galaxy. The breach sealed itself with another flash, leaving the 3 ships drained but intact. In the silence that followed, Susan stared at her readings in amazement. They had done it. They had pierced the barrier, if only for a moment. "Get that transmission to decoding," Captain Baker ordered. "Whatever Earth has become, they're trying to tell us something. Let's hope it's worth all this effort." The fleet regrouped, their ships battered but their mission partially successful. They had proven the barrier could be breached. Now they just had to understand why Earth had gone to such extraordinary lengths to transform itself. As the transmission began to decode, Susan couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to learn something that would change their understanding of the universe forever. The message from Earth played across every screen in the fleet, its contents sending shockwaves through the assembled species. Susan Cooper read it again and again, her hands trembling as the implications became clear. "They saw it coming," she whispered. "In the spaces between dimensions, they detected something massive heading toward our galaxy, something that had destroyed other galaxies before." Captain Baker stood at her command station, her face pale as she studied the data Earth had sent through their brief breach. The images showed entities that defied description, beings that existed in multiple dimensions at once, consuming entire civilizations. "Earth didn't abandon us," she announced to the fleet. They're transforming themselves into our defenders. The barrier isn't to keep us out. It's an accelerated evolution chamber. The quantum computers processed more of Earth's message, revealing the full scope of what humanity had discovered. The ancient artifacts scattered across the galaxy weren't just warnings. They were pieces of a defense system left by long-vanished species who had faced the same threat. Inside the barrier, Susan explained to the assembled commanders, "Time is moving thousands of times faster than normal. Earth is using that time to evolve into something capable of fighting these entities. They're sacrificing their present to ensure we have a future." New readings poured in from the barrier. The massive structures they had glimpsed around Earth were weapons and shields designed to operate in 11 dimensions. Humanity was preparing for a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A final part of the message began to play. A transmission from Earth's leaders explaining their choice. They had discovered the threat by accident, hidden in patterns of quantum space. With no time to warn the galaxy or debate their options, they had acted immediately. The ancient artifacts activated because the threat is approaching, Alan Reed reported from engineering. Earth's transformation will be complete just before they arrive. They're cutting it close, but they knew exactly what they were doing. The barrier around Earth pulsed with new energy, and for a brief moment, it became completely transparent. The fleet watched in awe as Earth's transformation continued. The planet was surrounded by structures that seemed to extend into other dimensions, defended by technologies that worked on principles they could barely understand. "Look at the readings," Susan gasped. "They're not just changing their technology. They're changing themselves. Every human on Earth is evolving into something new, something capable of perceiving and fighting in multiple dimensions at once." The Galactic Council representatives aboard the fleet sent urgent messages across the stars. Earth hadn't fallen silent in weakness. They had done so in preparation for becoming the galaxy's greatest defenders. "They're asking for our trust," Captain Baker announced, reading the final part of Earth's message, "and our patience. When the transformation is complete, when the threat arrives, they'll need the galaxy to stand with them." The barrier solidified again. But now everyone understood its purpose. Earth was in a chrysalis, transforming itself into something new. When it emerged, it would be ready to face an enemy that had destroyed countless civilizations before. Susan looked at the final readings from their brief glimpse through the barrier. The equations and energy patterns showed how close Earth was to completing its metamorphosis. Soon, very soon, the silence would end. "Send word to every world," Captain Baker ordered. "Earth hasn't abandoned the galaxy. They're sacrificing everything to save it. When they emerge from that barrier, they'll need us all to be ready." The fleet began to move into defensive positions around the barrier, each ship's crew understanding their new purpose. They weren't just watching Earth anymore. They were guarding its transformation, protecting the chrysalis until humanity emerged in its new form. Above them, the barrier continued its protective shimmer, hiding the most dramatic evolution any species had ever attempted. Inside, humanity raced against time to become something greater, preparing to defend not just their world, but all worlds against a threat from beyond the dimensions themselves. The silence would end soon, and when it did, the galaxy would never be the same.